On the day of our engagement, a building opposite my boyfriend's house caught fire. He was in a hurry to go downstairs to rescue his childhood sweetheart who was trapped in the sea of fire. However, the fire was very fierce, and the firefighters had already started the rescue operation in the community. So I stopped him from going. Later we got married, but he has been taking care of his disfigured childhood sweetheart. I have been alone in an empty room for more than 30 years, with no children. When I was seriously ill, he pulled out my oxygen tube. Luna, had you been happy in this life? If you hadn't stopped me back then, Isabella wouldn't have been disfigured. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day of our engagement. Isabella is my younger sister, and I have to save her. Go quickly, go quickly, go quickly. When Henry went out, he even forgot to close the front door. In the dining room, everyone was so embarrassed that they didn't know what to do. This. My mother looked awkward and turned to look at Henry's parents. Who is Isabella? My father asked. Henry's father shook his head, and his mother rubbed her hands, obviously feeling embarrassed. She's a girl in the community. She's the same age as Henry, and they grew up together. Henry's grandmother, who was sitting in the main seat, spoke up. My parents understood. Henry's mother quickly looked at me and explained with a smile. Luna, don't think too much. Henry and that Isabella are just good friends, and there's nothing else between them. Henry's father chimed in, yes, Isabella's parents are idle all day long, and Isabella didn't have a proper job after graduating from a secondary vocational school. Their family is not on the same level as ours and has no interaction with us. I smiled. Uncle and Aunt, can I go to Henry's room? Of course you can. Henry's mother nodded. I turned and left. In Henry's room, I took the diary with the blue cover on his desk and the photo of Isabella under his pillow. In this second life, I know exactly what his precious items look like and where they are placed. I returned to the dining room and handed the 2 items to Henry's father and mother. Henry has liked Isabella for a long time. You can take a look for yourselves. After a pause, I added. Since he left me today to save Isabella, I'm sure he has always had Isabella in his heart. Then let's cancel this engagement. From now on, I have nothing to do with Henry. After saying that, regardless of what Henry's father and mother wanted to say, I turned to look at my parents. Dad, Mom, let's go home. Okay. Let's go. My mother was angry and responded very simply. Henry and I were high school classmates. In our sophomore year of high school, Henry ranked first in the whole grade in the English exam. When he gave a speech in English class, I thought he was very charming, handsome, and cool. From then on, I fell in love with him. After the college entrance examination ended, at the class reunion, by coincidence, I sat next to Henry. We talked about the universities and majors we wanted to apply for, and about our vague future life plans. On that day, we talked a lot. Later, when the college entrance examination results came out, Henry called me. Luna, let's date and apply for University A together. Okay. I was happy. We were in love for 4 years in college. After graduation, we met each other's parents and naturally started preparing for the engagement. On this day in my previous life, I stopped Henry. Because from the balcony of his house, I saw that the fire in the opposite building was very fierce, and the thick black smoke was constantly expanding and rushing into the sky. The firefighters downstairs had already started the rescue operation, and the police and doctors had also come, and the cordon had been set up. I guessed that the police wouldn't let Henry rush into the sea of fire to save people. At the same time, I was worried about his safety and didn't want him to take risks, so I desperately stopped him. Later, his childhood sweetheart was rescued by the firefighters. Her left face and left shoulder were disfigured, and he took care of her in the hospital for 3 whole months. At that time, I thought he was just doing it out of friendship and self-blame. After all, he had wanted to save her in the first place. Even when I found Isabella's photo under his pillow, I made up excuses for him to convince myself. After we got married, he still went to take care of Isabella. I gradually became concerned. We talked, quarreled, and made a scene, but it was all in vain. We just muddled along like that. Until I was 52 years old, I accidentally found Henry's old diary, and then I suddenly realized that he had always loved Isabella. From the time he first fell in love until now, the person in his heart has always been Isabella and has never changed. After venting all my sadness and regret, I filed for divorce, but Henry didn't agree. I went through the legal process, but he interfered and obstructed it in various ways, causing the court to delay the judgment. I was depressed all day long, and illnesses began to haunt me. When I was sent to the hospital by the ambulance for the third time, the doctor issued a critical illness notice. As my only family member, Henry pulled out my oxygen tube. "Luna, have you been happy in this life? If you hadn't stopped me back then, Isabella wouldn't have been disfigured." I had long guessed that he had always held a grudge against me. Looking at his indifferent eyes, I smiled softly and closed my eyes. Now, I have fulfilled his wish. I didn't stop him. "I hope his Isabella won't be disfigured," as he said. On my way home, I deleted Henry's phone number and all his social media accounts. When I sat and chatted with my parents, they comforted me. "Luna, don't be sad. That scumbag Henry doesn't deserve you. We'll find someone better for you in the future," my mother said. My father also said, "Daughter, it's okay. Later, your mother and I will ask our relatives to find some excellent boys for you. Our daughter is outstanding and won't have trouble getting married." I nodded as a response to their words. But I had other thoughts. "Dad, Mom, I don't want to think about getting married in the next few years," I said. "I want to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination while working. Currently, I work in a top 100 enterprise. The work is not too tiring, the salary and benefits are good, and there is a lot of room for promotion. In my previous life, I left this enterprise after getting married and found a job with a lower salary and more relaxation. Because I wanted to lead a simple life with Henry and have a child to give it more company. However, in the end, my thoughts were just a joke. Now that I clearly know that my career and abilities are more important than anyone or any relationship, then let's strive for it." Then I told them my specific plans for my work and studies. After hearing this, my parents strongly supported me. "Daughter, go ahead and do it. Dad is looking forward to seeing you become even more outstanding." My mother nodded, "As long as our Luna is happy." After working for a week, my best friend Juliet contacted me. "Is your Henry seriously injured?" Juliet was my desk mate in the senior year of high school, and she can be said to have witnessed my love story with Henry all the way. I didn't quite understand this sentence, but I told her the truth. "Henry and I broke up on the day of our engagement." "Holy cow, what's going on?" Juliet was shocked. I told her what happened on the day of the engagement. When Juliet understood, she also said, "No wonder someone said Henry was burned. You wait, I'll go and find out the specific information." An hour later, Juliet called again. "Girl, I found out," Juliet said. I listened. Henry and his childhood sweetheart were both burned, and it's very serious. I heard that the police couldn't stop Henry, and he rushed upstairs to save people. But originally, Isabella was hiding well. She had a wet towel over her mouth and nose, and another wet towel in her arms. But when Henry came, Isabella went to open the door, and her leg was hit by something burned in the house, and the whole leg was burned. Later, Henry wanted to take Isabella downstairs, but somehow, they were both knocked unconscious by something that fell. Fortunately, Isabella gave Henry a wet towel. When they were found by the firefighters, they were still alive. Juliet said all this at once. I didn't respond, nor did I say anything. Juliet slowly added, "They both have large areas of burns now. Henry has injuries on his face, back, and legs, and Isabella has injuries on her legs, arms, and waist. Do you think that if Henry hadn't rushed up and the firefighters had rescued Isabella, she wouldn't have been injured so seriously? And Henry, he abandoned you to save Isabella, and now he's ended up like this. TSK, I really want to say it's retribution." I didn't respond after hearing this. but in my heart I thought, Henry, it seems that the result is not the same as what you hoped for in your previous life. I'm busy with work every day and also preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. One day, when I was about to read a book after dinner in the evening, I received a call from my mother. Luna, Henry's family came to our house today. Henry was burned in the fire, and his family plans to sell their house to pay for his skin surgery. The couple came to apologize to us on behalf of their son and also wanted to become relatives with us again. I asked, "What did you say?" My mother immediately became excited. I refused them flatly. That kind of two-timing man is not the type to build a life with at all. What's the point of having him? I smiled in satisfaction and chimed in, "Yeah, that's right." I didn't take this matter to heart, and the following few days passed peacefully. On the weekend, I made an appointment with Juliet to go shopping. Just as I was about to go out, my phone rang. It was a strange number. I answered it. "Hello. Luna, it's me. Henry?" I was surprised. I had blocked and deleted him before, so he shouldn't have been able to get through. Was it someone else's number? "What do you want?" I asked inferently. Henry said, "I'm in the hospital now. Can you come and see me?" "No." I refused immediately. Henry let out a sigh. "Even though we've broken up, we can still be considered friends, right?" "Luna, I really want to see you. Can you come to the hospital and visit me?" "I don't want to see you," I refused again and added, "in my eyes, you're not even a friend." In my previous life, Henry tortured me so much. Logically speaking, in this life, I should target him, take revenge, and it wouldn't even be too much to make him die a miserable death. But I've thought about it. If I take revenge, I'll end up living in darkness and pain myself. So, forget it. Stay away from him and have no more connections with him. I want to live this life of mine well. Perhaps my two refusals angered Henry, and his tone immediately changed. "Luna, what are you so arrogant about? I'm telling you, I've never loved you. When I confessed to you back then, it was just a momentary crush. The person I've always loved is Isabella. I'm willing to end up like this for saving her this time. You just wait and see. As soon as I recover, I'll marry Isabella right away. Without me, and no other man will want you either. You can just be single for the rest of your life." His words didn't stir up any emotions in me. My heart was as calm as still water. After a moment of silence, I said lightly, "My affairs have nothing to do with you. I talked about Henry with Juliet, and it was all about complaining. What the hell kind of love is that? If he loves Isabella so much, why does he still want to see you? Is he being a masochist? You just wait and see. Their ending won't be a good one. Both of them got burned. They can cover it up with clothes and you can't see it, but what about when they take off their clothes? Won't they dislike each other? Anyway, I'm just waiting to see the result of Henry's so-called willingness. If they don't get married within 5 years, I'll buy 5 bottles of Wee Haha and 5 bottles of Shuangwei Wai and sit at the entrance of their community and drink them." I added after Juliet had finished speaking. "Henry's family seems to be planning to sell their house." Juliet felt a bit awkward. "Well, that's okay. I'll just take it as laughing at his so-called willingness." I thought about it and realized that it was indeed the place that witnessed his so-called willingness. After the complaining was over, we talked about work and the future. "Honey, work hard for the postgraduate entrance examination, strive to get admitted, and aim for the highest place. You're so beautiful, and with your ability, you'll meet a better and more loving person in the future." Listening to Juliet's blessings and expectations, I felt warm in my heart and very confident. "Yeah, let's work hard together and live the life we want." Okay. After the postgraduate entrance examination ended, my life became a bit easier. Every day after work, I would go back to the small rented apartment and cook dinner for myself. My cooking skills improved gradually, so much so that after I went home before the spring festival, my parents wanted to eat the food I cooked every day. On the morning of the 26th day of the 12th lunar month, when I went to the supermarket to buy groceries, I unexpectedly met Isabella on the road. I had known Isabella for a long time because of Henry. In my previous life, after Henry and I got together, Henry organized a gathering and invited me and Isabella to have beef noodles, introducing us to each other. But at that time Isabella left halfway through the meal, saying she had something urgent to attend to. After Isabella and I looked at each other for a few seconds, she walked towards me. I stood still and didn't plan to avoid her. "Wow, you're dressed nicely. It seems you've made a lot of money this year," Isabella said in a sarcastic tone. I was wearing a black woolen coat, and the texture was really good. Then, I heard her say, "Too bad, what's the use of having money? Henry has already dumped you. I heard that on the day of your engagement, Henry left you behind and came to save me regardless of everything. Luna, you're just a discarded piece of trash. In Henry's heart, I'll always be the first." I just smiled at Isabella's words. Then I looked at her again. She was almost completely wrapped in a long white down jacket. Her hair was loose, she had a scarf around her neck, and she was wearing long leather boots on her feet. Only her face was exposed. Isabella had a standard oval face, regular facial features, and bright eyes. She was indeed very beautiful. In my previous life, half of her face was full of pits and bumps. Even if she wore a mask, she couldn't cover all the burn scars. So Isabella hardly ever went out. It was precisely because of this that Henry would run in and out every day to buy things for Isabella, and let Isabella blame and beat him to let her vent. Oh, right, Isabella was once pregnant. In the few years before I died, Henry told me a lot about his past with Isabella. After the pregnancy test showed that she was pregnant, not long after, Isabella deliberately jumped around and had a miscarriage. Henry was very angry, but Isabella said that giving birth to a child would require going to the hospital, and the doctor would see her true face, and she didn't want that. So when I died, Isabella was still staying in her house. I guess she planned to stay there until she died. I gathered my thoughts and put away my smile. Being the first is nice. I heard that both you and Henry got burned. Where were you injured? Is it serious? Henry used to say that you love beauty the most. So, can you wear a skirt in summer? Isabella's face immediately twisted in anger. Luna, you bitch. Isabella raised her hand to hit me. I quickly reached out to block the hand she was about to swing at me, and then shook it off forcefully. You're the bitch. You came to me first and provoked me first. Isabella staggered back a few steps and couldn't say anything in reply. I didn't bother to pay attention to her anymore and turned around and left. On the third day of the first lunar month, after I met Juliet, I heard some good news. Lucas said that Henry's skin surgery was fairly successful. Lucas was our high school classmate, and Juliet had always been in touch with him. Juliet continued to tell me the news she had heard from Lucas. Henry's parents sold their house to focus on treating his illness. I heard that for the previous 3 surgeries, the experts from Beijing were invited by Henry's parents using their connections to perform the operations, so the results were very satisfactory. The doctor said that if he recovers well later, it will basically have no impact on his normal life. I nodded to indicate that I understood. However, after the second surgery, Henry had a big argument with his parents. It was because of Isabella. Isabella's parents are unreliable and don't care about Isabella at all. I heard that when her mother went to get her hair dyed, she was persuaded by the hairdresser to buy a bottle of some kind of oil. After using it a few times at home and not liking it, she asked Isabella to apply it to her wound, saying it was for beauty and could remove the scars. Henry wanted his parents to take out some money. Since the expert hadn't left yet, he wanted Isabella to have the surgery too, but his parents directly refused, thinking he was out of his mind. Lucas said that Henry was so agitated at that time that his father directly asked the doctor to give him a sedative. TSK, this so-called love is really touching. Juliet said softly. I smiled and didn't say anything. The results of the postgraduate entrance examination came out, and I was admitted. The interview went smoothly as well. I still lead a busy life, juggling work and study. My social circle was very small, so small that I only talked about personal matters occasionally with one of my colleagues and Juliet. Even when it came to calling my parents, I could only call them once a week. Usually, if there was something to say, I would just send messages, and I never greeted them if there was nothing important. At the end of that year, because of my excellent performance in the performance appraisal, I got promoted. I became a small leader in the department, and my salary also increased a lot. On the night when I received my salary after the raise for the first time, I had a new goal. Buying a house. I wanted to buy a house of my own in the provincial capital. A 3-bedroom house would be nice, so that my parents could come and live with me, and I could also have a small study. After that, I worked even harder, but I also arranged my time reasonably and studied my postgraduate courses. In July of the following year, after I got home from a company team building activity, Juliet called me. "Luna, there's some really explosive news." Huh? I was puzzled. Henry's grandmother was so angry that she died. When I heard this news, my mind went blank for a moment. It took me a while to come back to my senses, and tears gradually welled up in my eyes. In my previous life, Henry's grandmother was very kind to me. She was a really warm-hearted old lady. Every time at the dining table, she would greet me enthusiastically. "Luna, eat this drumstick. You're too thin and need to build up your body. And this fish, it's really delicious. Try it quickly. Help yourself to the dishes. My old chopsticks aren't clean, so I won't pick food for you." She would also take my hand and led me to her room. She would take out some candies, peanuts, cookies and other snacks from a small camphorwood box. "Eat quickly. These were all given to me by my old sisters. Luna, I'll tell you secretly. I have a lot of delicious food. I often go downstairs to bask in the sun, and my old sisters give me a lot of food. Also a few days ago, an old man gave me some food, but I refused. Because he was so ugly. He didn't have any teeth left, and when he talked, it was all muffled, like a fly." The old lady with a great mindset lived carefree, believing that having delicious food and being full was happiness. But in this life, why did this happen at this time? Who made her so angry that she died? I asked. Who else could it be? Henry, of course. Ah! Here comes the big news. Isabella is pregnant. Henry brought her home and told his family that he wants to marry Isabella. Henry's parents are strongly against it, and so is his grandmother. Then they started arguing. The old lady said something that Isabella didn't like, and Isabella directly started cursing. The exact words were, "You old hag, you don't have many days left to live, and you still don't agree. Who do you think you are?" Then, the old lady directly fainted and passed away. After hearing this, at that moment, I wanted to strangle Isabella to death. My reason gradually returned, and that thought slowly faded away. In this life, I have nothing to do with anyone in Henry's family. There's more, there's more. Juliet continued. Isabella's parents are using the baby in Isabella's belly to demand that Henry's family buy a house in full payment as a wedding house, and the elders in Henry's family are not allowed to live in it. And the betrothal gift should be 380,000 yuan, along with several jin of gold, a diamond ring and so on. It seems that it was on the 3rd day after Henry's grandmother passed away that Isabella's family came to make these demands. Anyway, now Henry's family is in chaos, and since someone died in the rental house, the landlord is urging Henry's family to move out. After hearing all this, I was just a bit surprised. In my previous life, even though the relationship between Henry and me as husband and wife was fading, Henry's family as a whole was peaceful and normal. But in this life, Henry and Isabella haven't even been together yet, and it's already in such a mess. Henry, are you satisfied with your choice? 3 months later, I didn't expect that I would meet Henry. On this day, I had just finished talking about work with a colleague in the department when the assistant knocked on the door and stood at the doorway saying, "Luna, someone is looking for you. They're in the reception area at the front desk." Okay, I see. I simply organized the documents on my desk, and then went there. When I saw Henry sitting in the reception area, I was stunned for a moment. Gradually, I realized that I had been working here since I was in a relationship with him, and I hadn't changed my job since then. Naturally, he knew my workplace. I quickly adjusted my state and walked over. "What do you want from me?" Henry had already stood up. Now he looked really decadent. His hair was messy and greasy, his eyes were dull, he had dark circles under his eyes, and his beard stubble was quite long. He was wearing a pilling casual t-shirt and sweatpants. "Yes, I have something to ask." Henry nodded. "Let's sit down and talk." I sat down opposite the seat where Henry had just been sitting. After Henry sat down, he first said, "Luna, you've changed." I ignored his words. "What's the matter you want from me?" Henry immediately became serious and then said, "Well, can you lend me some money?" Seeing my surprise, he quickly explained the reason. "I've cut off relations with my parents. After my grandmother passed away, my aunt gathered a group of people to beat me up. My mother fell ill because she wasn't in good health, and my father cut off relations with me." I frowned, clearly not expecting this. But Henry thought I didn't believe him and quickly added, "Everything I said is true. The severance of my relationship with my parents is legally valid." We went to the notary office to notarize it. After saying that, he muttered, "I also hate my parents quite a bit. They were not nice to Isabella and they insisted on opposing my marriage to Isabella. I don't want them either." This time, I didn't show much expression. Henry continued, "Now I'm living with Isabella at her home. Isabella is pregnant. Her father went abroad with others to make big money, and her mother went somewhere with an aunt some time ago and hasn't come back recently. Isabella can't get in touch with her father, and her mother has no money. I've been taking care of Isabella, and I don't have a job or any income, so now we don't even have the money for the prenatal checkups." Saying this, Henry looked into my eyes and said again, "Luna, please can you lend me some money? Although I've never loved you and I was the one who left you, I really love Isabella and the baby. I want Isabella to be healthy and I want the baby to be born safely. I don't need much. Just 300,000 yuan will do. Can you lend it to me?" No, without the slightest hesitation, I directly refused. Henry didn't expect me to answer so quickly and so straightforwardly. He was stunned for a long time before he spoke. "Is it because you hate me for not loving you that you won't lend me the money?" "No," I replied. "It's because I have nothing to do with you that I won't lend it." After saying that, I stood up and prepared to leave. "If there's nothing else, I'll go first. Also, don't come to me again in the future. I really have nothing to do with you." I had just taken one step when I heard Henry call me, "Luna, aren't you afraid that I'll make a scene?" Instantly I guessed that he was going to act like a rascal. But I wasn't afraid. I continued walking forward. Just as I took my 9th step, I heard Henry shouting behind me, "Luna, you shameless thing. All of you are Luna's colleagues, right? Well, that's just right. Everyone come and take a look and see her true face." At this time, there were some colleagues coming and going around, not too many, but not few either. I slowly turned around and listened to Henry shouting, "Luna is a slut. Don't be fooled by her decent appearance. The things she does are really disgusting. On the day of our engagement, she set fire to my good friend's house just to show off in front of my good friend, which led to both me and my good friend getting burned when I went to put out the fire. Later, I dumped her, but she wouldn't give up. She came to my house and pestered me, and she made my grandmother so angry that she died. Now, knowing that I'm going to marry my good friend, she's bullying my good friend again and trying to kill the baby in my good friend's belly. Luna, why are you so vicious? The person who should die has always been you. Why don't you just go and die?" After hearing these ridiculous accusations, the corners of my mouth turned up and I laughed first. At the same time, I also understood one thing. Henry wanted to ruin me. By spreading such rumors, he wanted to make me lose my reputation completely. But in this life, I, the current me, wouldn't be weak. The colleagues around looked at the crazy Henry and then at me, who was calm and silent. For a moment, they didn't know how to analyze and guess. Have you finished? I asked Henry. Henry clearly didn't expect me to be so calm and not worried at all. For a moment he didn't know what to do. I took a few steps forward and stood still. You said I set fire to your friend's house. Then call the police now and let the police arrest me. I stretched out my hands, motioning for him to make the call. But he swayed and took a step back. If you think I made your grandmother die of anger, you can also call the police and say that I harassed the residents and intentionally injured someone. And as for me trying to kill the baby in your friend's belly, show the evidence and call the police too. I stretched out my hands again. For these 3 things, I've seemingly violated the law in all of them. So call the police. Now, Henry looked flustered and his body started to shake. I remained calm and waited for his move. Although the colleagues around were just onlookers, their intelligence was always on point. Yeah, if you're so confident and sure, call the police quickly. Murder and arson are serious crimes. Call the police quickly. You won't call, right? Then I'll call for you. A male colleague had already seen something was wrong. At this moment he directly took out his phone and prepared to call the police. Henry panicked and quickly took a few steps forward in front of that male colleague to stop him. Don't call. What? Are you afraid that the police will come and arrest you, the rumor monger? The male colleague was very righteous. Then he continued, I'm telling you, spreading rumors is also against the law, and besides, you're causing trouble in our company. There are surveillance cameras everywhere in our company, and it's very easy to extract evidence. When Henry heard this, he was so scared that he quickly looked up to find the location of the cameras. When he saw the 3rd camera, Henry immediately turned around, lowered his head, and ran away. My work wasn't affected by Henry's rumors. Instead, several colleagues kindly asked me if they should send me home after work, worried that Henry might harm me. I shook my head, said no, and thanked them. After successfully graduating from graduate school, I took my graduation certificate and went to the Human Resources Department. My salary was raised to a higher level. A year later, I bought a house. The house wasn't very big. It had 3 bedrooms and was the layout I liked. The transportation around it was convenient. There were schools and hospitals nearby, and just outside the north gate of the community was a park. During the spring festival that year, my parents and I were very happy. They were proud of my small achievements. But when we met our relatives and friends, my parents still modestly said that my job was ordinary and my life was unremarkable. On the 6th day of the first lunar month, when I went out to buy fruits in the morning, as soon as I walked out of the community, suddenly a person rushed out and stood in front of me. I was so scared that my whole body trembled, and I took several steps back in a row. Luna, it's me. The man wrapped his down jacket tightly around himself. I took a closer look and saw that it was Henry. I was very surprised by his appearance. Looking at his current appearance, he looked weathered and his appearance was slovenly. He had aged a lot and didn't look like a young man in his 20s at all. It took me a while to calm down my emotions. What do you want? I asked him. At this moment, I wasn't worried about my own safety. After all, at the entrance of the community, the security booth was not far away, and there were a lot of people coming and going around. I could call for help at any time. I have something to say to you. I remained silent and listened. Luna, I've been waiting at the entrance of your community for 3 days. I've only seen you today. I didn't understand this. What on earth do you want to say? I regret it. Luna, I regret it. Henry suddenly took 2 steps forward and got closer to me. I don't love Isabella anymore. I don't want her. I want to be with you. I want to live a good life with you. I was even more confused. I thought about it but still couldn't figure it out. Henry, are you crazy? Was he out of his mind? What kind of nonsense was this? Henry shook his head, understanding my stunned look and confusion, and then said, Luna, I had a dream. I dreamed that I was engaged to you. Not long after our engagement, we got married. You loved me very much and were very kind to me. Hearing this, I suddenly realized. Was he reborn too? Henry continued. I want to make this dream come true. Luna, do you still love me now? I can abandon Isabella. I can abandon my son and be with you forever. After saying this, Henry explained a bit more. Isabella is not good at all. Her scars are so ugly. Every time I see them, I feel sick. And Isabella has gained a lot of weight after giving birth. She's so fat. I don't even want to touch her. I didn't expect Henry's current life and thoughts to be like this. After processing this information, I laughed. This person was even more of a scumbag in this life than in the previous one. How on earth did he have the nerve to come to me? When Henry saw me laugh, he immediately became excited. Luna, you still love me, don't you? Mendo. Henry froze. I was about to say that I felt sick when I saw him and told him to get lost, but my phone suddenly rang. It was a message. I was holding my phone in my hand. I raised my hand to unlock it and opened it, and saw the content of the message. Nathaniel, Happy New Year. I like you. After being surprised for a second, I thought of Nathaniel's face and his way of doing things, and the corners of my mouth slowly turned up. Nathaniel was a client of our company, the CEO of the Nathaniel Group, and the heir of the Nathaniel family. He had just returned from studying abroad half a year ago. He looked a bit like a playboy and a bit carefree, but in fact, he was quite reliable, especially at work. He was decisive in making decisions, and his judgment and vision were admirable. So at this moment, this had nothing to do with work. He was just joking with me. When Henry saw that I was distracted, he quickly asked, Luna, don't you love me anymore? You haven't gotten married until now. Aren't you waiting for me? This time I was actually laughed at by his words. At the same time, my idea also changed. Rather than telling him to get lost, it would be better to use this joke to deal with him to prevent him from continuing to pester me. I directly turned the phone screen around and showed the message to Henry. I have someone I like. He and I like each other. After saying that, I put away my phone and walked past him gracefully. After going back to work after the spring festival, I communicated with Nathaniel about work as usual. When we met, we only talked about work. Neither of us mentioned that sentence I like you, and this joke just passed like that. After being busy for half a year, in August, the deputy general manager of the company suddenly communicated with me and wanted to send me to work in the Melbourne branch for 3 years. After coming back, I would be directly promoted to the senior management level. I wanted to go. After discussing it with my parents, they respected my decision. And this matter was settled like this. However, when we were discussing my going abroad, our family of 3 also made another decision, which was for my parents to move into my house and live in the provincial capital in the future. At the end of August, I went home on the weekend to pick up my parents and take them to the provincial capital. On Saturday night, we made an appointment to have dinner with my uncle's family. In the private room of the restaurant, when we were halfway through the meal, I received a work call. I hurriedly left the private room and went outside the restaurant to answer it. After chatting with my colleague about work, I was just about to put away my phone and go back into the restaurant when I suddenly heard someone shouting, "Murder, murder!" I looked in the direction of the sound. A man was staggering and running, and not far behind him was a fat woman holding a kitchen knife. I looked for a while before I recognized the 2 of them. It was Henry and Isabella. Henry kept looking back while running. He didn't step on the ground steadily and fell down. When Isabella saw this, she pounced on him with satisfaction and directly straddled Henry. Damn it, go to hell. Isabella swung the knife down, and blood splattered everywhere. You actually despise me. You actually cheated. Damn it, Henry, what right do you have to despise me? If it wasn't for you coming to save me in the fire that year, would I have been injured so badly? It's you who made me have to carry these scars for the rest of my life. It's you who ruined my life. Go to hell, Henry. Isabella kept stabbing with the knife. Her expression was ferocious, and she still had something to say. I'll kill you first, and then I'll go home and kill that little brat. Don't worry, I won't live either. Damn it, no one will have a good time. I looked at Isabella and Henry lying in a pool of blood. Like the other passers-by around, I didn't dare to step forward to stop them. Because Isabella was obviously very emotional, and she still had a knife in her hand, and she could slash at people randomly at any time. I don't know who had already called the police. When Isabella heard the sound of the police sirens, she got up and left quickly. Still, no one dared to stop her because Isabella was walking while holding the knife. When the police arrived, a passerby told the police what had just happened, and the police immediately took action in different directions. After the ambulance arrived, I watched the dying Henry being carried onto the ambulance. When the medical staff were moving into position, suddenly, through a gap, my eyes met Henry's. But I looked natural and my heart was calm. Because, Henry, this is the life you wanted. The next day, when I left this familiar small city with my parents, I saw the news. Henry, Isabella, and their son Gabriel were all dead. The news said that Henry stopped breathing on the way to the hospital. After Isabella went home, she strangled Gabriel with a rope, and then she slit her wrists and stabbed herself in the heart and committed suicide. When the police broke into the house, the mother and son had already passed away. After reading the news, I didn't have any emotions or thoughts. I naturally put away my phone. The scenery outside the car window flashed by. I just wanted to live my own life well in this life. Love myself forever and always be positive. A week later, I set off for Melbourne. My parents accompanied me to the airport and gave me a lot of instructions. This time, I wasn't impatient at all. I listened carefully, nodded in response, and after hugging them, I waved to them and went through the security check. Half an hour later, I was sitting on a lounge chair at the boarding gate. Just as I was about to take out my laptop to reply to work emails, I heard a familiar voice. Luna, what a coincidence. I looked up and saw that it was Nathaniel. He was 185 meters tall, wearing a black casual outfit. He had no luggage with him, had a U-shaped pillow around his neck, and was holding a mobile phone, a passport, and a boarding pass in his hand. I was surprised. What are you doing here? Nathaniel coughed twice and sat down in the empty seat beside me before answering. My family has established a new company in Melbourne, and I'm going there to manage it. Was that so? I was half convinced and half skeptical in my heart and didn't say anything. I just kept looking at Nathaniel. Nathaniel felt a bit uneasy under my gaze and started to prove himself. Everything I said is true. If you don't believe me, I'll show you the personnel transfer order of our Nathaniel group. He was searching for the document picture on his mobile phone. Before long, I indeed saw his position transfer order, which also had an official seal on it. However, when he was looking for the picture just now, I saw several photos of myself. They were all pictures of me at work. Presumably, he took them secretly. I suddenly thought of that previous joke. After a while, the corners of my mouth turned up. Nathaniel. Please treat me to a meal after we arrive in Melbourne. Sure thing. This is my first time going abroad. If I encounter difficulties in my daily life, can you help me out? Definitely. I'd be more than happy to. A sudden fire broke out in the residential community, and the twins born to my husband and his ex-wife were trapped in the house. This time, I didn't hesitate to call 911. After successfully notifying my husband, I didn't stop him from leaving. In my previous life, when the sudden fire occurred, my husband, who was on vacation, was about to accompany his first love, his ex-wife, to a deserted island for a vacation, saying that he wanted to make up for the regret of that year. I didn't hesitate to tear up his plane ticket and firmly stopped him from going out, so that he could successfully save the children. After that, my husband, who rushed to the island, received the news that his ex-wife had been swept away by the waves, and her body was never found. After coming back, my husband seemed very calm and even took great care of me in every way. 3 months later, I got pregnant and wanted to give him a surprise, but I suddenly found that my vision became blurred, my whole body trembled, and I fell to the ground. He stood beside me coldly and took out the photo of his ex-wife, and put it in front of my eyes. Evelyn, you got what you wanted, you killed Vivian. Are you satisfied now? Now go and accompany her. Now don't deserve it, because a vicious woman like you only deserves to go to hell. Finally, after seeing his cold eyes clearly, I stopped breathing. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when the fire broke out. I clenched my hands tightly. The feeling of powerlessness all over my body when I died in my previous life made me panic. When I felt the strength from the palms of my hands, I was sure that I had really been reborn. I looked at the clock. I knew that the news of the fire at home would come soon. Sure enough, the phone rang. It was the neighbor aunt. Evelyn, come back quickly. Your Julian and Lucas are sleeping at home. Their father just went out and won't answer the phone. Hurry up. After hanging up the phone, I quickly called 911 and rushed home from the company. At the same time, I called Henry on the way, but he still didn't answer the phone. As a last resort, I edited a text message and sent it. There is a fire at home. The 2 children are still taking a nap at home. Come back quickly. Unexpectedly, as soon as I sent it, I received a reply. Evelyn, you're really getting more and more outrageous with your lies. Ever since Vivian came back, you've been so petty. Besides, if there's a fire, there are other firefighters, aren't there? I'm on vacation today. Don't involve our neighbor Olivia in your lie. You're so stupid that you don't even know how to make up a lie. You're really stupid and mean. In my previous life, Henry also didn't trust me like this. As a last resort, I could only block his car with my body and took the opportunity to tear up his plane ticket, barely managing to make him stay. Since he was a firefighter himself, with his professional ability, he quickly controlled the fire, saved the twin siblings, and also prevented the fire from spreading further. But after that, when Henry went to the island and tried to contact Vivian to explain things clearly, he heard the news that she had been swept away by the waves and her body was never found. Upon learning this news, Henry didn't seem as negative and depressed as I had imagined. Instead, he started going to and from work on time, even took care of all the housework at home attentively, and made all kinds of nutritious meals for me and the twin siblings. Under Henry's care, 3 months later, I successfully got pregnant. One day, I suddenly couldn't control my body. I was short of breath, my vision was blurred, and I fell to the floor. Henry just stood by indifferently and watched me struggling to call for help. Only then did I realize that all his careful care was fake. All my food had been poisoned with thallium, the kind of chronic toxin. Immersed in the false image of being loved, I had never doubted Henry for a moment. When I rushed back to the residential community, I found that the fire department hadn't arrived yet. The fire brigade was only 5 kilometers away from our house. We bought the house here back then to make it convenient for Henry to go to and from work. After all, his job required a quick response. While I was feeling puzzled, I called the fire brigade near my home again, but I heard a familiar voice. Sister-in-law, I'm wondering why you're calling again. Henry has already told me. Don't be so petty. It's just a trip. What's the big deal? There's no need to make a fool of yourself by saying that your house is on fire. Young people should remember to avoid bad omens. Ethan was Henry's good friend in the army and also a loyal supporter of the love between Henry and his ex-wife Vivian. I, a woman who married Henry halfway through, was nothing but a vicious woman who stood in the way of their pure love. This time, when Vivian suddenly returned to the country, the number of times Henry didn't come home increased sharply. Even a few days ago, when Lucas had a high fever and wouldn't wake up, he still wouldn't come back from staying at Vivian's house. And Henry tried his best to portray me as a nagging and unreasonable shrew. In my previous life, I always wondered why every time his brothers came to our house, I would treat them well, buy groceries and cook in advance, and give them plenty of space to play. But the brothers around Henry always had an inexplicable hostility towards me. In this life, I didn't dwell on it anymore. I directly hung up the phone and immediately called the farther fire center to request support. The fire spread uncontrollably, and I could vaguely hear the crackling sounds of the furniture exploding. Evelyn, you're finally back. What should we do? Lucas and Julian are both taking a nap. It's not good to wake the children up, and it's not good if they don't wake up either. I'm afraid it will scare the children. Olivia, looking anxious, ran straight towards me. I looked at the direction of the fire. The fire started from the north, and that was exactly where the children's bedroom was. It happened to be a northerly wind today, and the flames were dancing wildly in the wind. I was extremely anxious. Although Lucas and Julian were Henry and Vivian's children, in fact, Vivian left without a word right after giving birth to them. She didn't show up again until recently, saying that she was seriously ill at that time and didn't want to drag Henry and the children down. Henry looked at the critical illness notice that Vivian handed over from that year and felt extremely heartbroken. He blamed himself for not being able to accompany Vivian when she needed him the most. This time he vowed to do everything he could to give Vivian what she wanted and make up for his first love in every possible way. The relationship among three people is always crowded, and the redundant one is me. I'm a petty and sentimental woman who doesn't understand their pure love and has just been taking care of the children for free for 5 years. Over the years, I have always treated Lucas and Julian as my own children, not only because I love Henry, but also because of the affection accumulated bit by bit during countless days and nights of taking care of them. Although the two children know that I'm not their biological mother, I can feel the dependence and love of these two little lives for me. I looked around. I didn't know how long it would take for the fire brigade I called this time to arrive. In my previous life, Henry rescued the two children with his professional ability. In this life, I tried my best to recall his way of dealing with it. I aimed at the neighbor's balcony. Our house was on the 5th floor. Over the years, I had always persisted in rock climbing, and climbing up to the 5th floor wasn't difficult for me. I picked up the bucket that the property management used to wash the rags on the ground, filled it with water in the sink, and then drenched myself. At the same time, I took off the silk scarf around my neck, wet it, and covered my mouth and nose with it. I borrowed a thick rope from the property management and put it around my body. The neighbors all saw my intention and tried to persuade me one after another. Evelyn, this is too dangerous. Yes, wait a little longer. The fire engine should be here soon. Yes, don't go. You're a woman. Let me go. There were even neighbors in the crowd who were willing to take the risk for me. Looking at the anxious faces of the neighbors and thinking that the biological father of Lucas and the other child was having a good time at the moment, my heart couldn't help but ache. I smiled and refused the kindness of the neighbors. After all, since Lucas and the other child called me Mom, I had to take the responsibility of saving them. I stepped on the iron window frame and the air conditioner outdoor unit and climbed up step by step. When I just stood firm on the air conditioner outdoor unit on the 3rd floor, suddenly a huge explosion came from upstairs. Billows of thick smoke rose, making the surrounding air even hotter. I subconsciously shrank back, and the sporadic fragments after the explosion passed by my face. The furniture fragments fell to the ground with a clanging sound, scaring the onlookers to step back a few meters. Everyone stared at me closely, worried about me. Evelyn, come down quickly. Don't climb up any further, come down quickly. You're also very important yourself. There were voices of persuasion from downstairs. I still smiled in response. I took a deep breath and started climbing again. I could see that I had already reached the window on the 4th floor. One more step up was the balcony window of my own house. I reached out to grab the iron frame outside the balcony, but I was caught off guard by the intense heat and quickly withdrew my hand. Several translucent blisters immediately formed on my hand. The neighbors downstairs realized what had happened and were going to throw gloves up to me, but unfortunately, the distance was too far. I gritted my teeth and firmly grasped the iron frame with my hand, ignoring the stinging pain coming from the palm of my hand. I used the strength to jump up and got into the balcony of my own house. At this moment, the crowd downstairs let out a cheer as if victory was within reach. Everyone was concerned about me in their hearts, and at the same time, they were delighted with my success at this stage. I quickly ran into the bedroom, trying to wake up Lucas and Julian, but I found that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't wake them up. As a last resort, I could only tie them tightly to my body with a rope, one in front and one behind me. I prepared to run towards the balcony again, but was blocked by the crystal chandelier that collapsed from the roof. Just a second's difference, and the three of us almost got hit. I adjusted my breathing and immediately rushed out. I successively heard the sounds of various furniture collapsing and explosions coming from behind. I knew that there was no time left. I had to leave within a few seconds, otherwise both the children and I would be blown downstairs by the heat wave. Jump down quickly. When I got to the balcony, I was attracted by the shouts from downstairs. It turned out that during the time I was in the room, the fire brigade had already arrived at the residential community and laid out the fire rescue air cushion in advance. I was overjoyed. I held the two children tightly, one in each hand, and then jumped down without hesitation. The moment I lay on the air cushion, all the neighbors around burst into thunderous applause. At that moment, tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. It was a feeling of liberation and release. In this life, I wanted to take revenge on Henry and Vivian, but the prerequisite was to save these two children. The firefighters immediately helped clear the way and sent the still unconscious children to the hospital. I stayed outside the emergency room, limply leaning against the seat, feeling a moment of relief after this disaster. Sister-in-law, look at you. With such a big fire, why didn't you tell me clearly? Looking at Ethan, who rushed over in a hurry, I just thought it was ridiculous in my heart. I originally didn't want to pay attention to him, but unexpectedly Ethan wouldn't let it go. Evelyn, you woman, you deliberately staged a melodrama just to make everyone see how hard you worked and scold Henry for being heartless, right? Besides, the children aren't your biological ones, so you can use them without any burden, right? Ethan looked at me with a look of disdain. Even at this moment, he still tried to shift the blame onto me. So you think that this fire today was something I made up and directed myself, just to make Henry take a second look at me? Even risking the lives of the two children, trying to gain attention, and making everyone blame Henry, right? I continued to sit slumped on the chair. The rescue and the fire scene had consumed most of my strength. Of course, isn't that the case? Ethan puffed out his chest and glared at me. Fine, remember what you're saying now. So you won't deny that you received my fire alarm call, but chose to ignore it, right? I pressed my advantage. Of course not. The fire alarm is a national resource. How can a villain like you just use it as you please? Ethan still refused to admit his fault. Okay. At this moment, the doctor came out. Doctor, how are the two children? I quickly stepped forward. The children are too young. They inhaled a large amount of thick smoke into their lungs and are seriously poisoned by carbon monoxide. They are currently in a coma. We will choose to observe them further. The doctor shook his head and said regretfully. By the way, there's one more thing I need to talk to you about. The doctor looked serious, and I realized that there might be something else hidden. Doctor, please go ahead. I'm afraid. The doctor glanced at Ethan beside me. I knew that the doctor wanted to avoid suspicion, and was worried that Ethan would reveal something. But in this life, I just wanted to openly expose the evil deeds of Henry and Vivian. Moreover, I needed Ethan to spread everything he knew as far and as fast as possible. So I gave the doctor an affirmative look and said, Doctor, it's okay. Just say it directly. We found that both children had been given a considerable amount of sleeping pills. If it was just a normal nap for the children, we reasonably suspect that you parents have the behavior of abusing drugs. So we just took the initiative to contact the police, and I believe they will take over and investigate this case soon. After the doctor finished speaking, he nodded and motioned to leave. I stood there stunned, remembering that in my previous life, after Henry saved the two children, he quickly rushed to the island to look for his ex-wife. I stayed by the children's side until late at night, and the two children finally ended their nap. At that time, I was also puzzled. Why did the children, who usually took a 2-hour nap, actually sleep until the evening? Later, I thought that the children just hadn't woken up completely after the fire, but I guessed that they had been sleeping restlessly in their subconscious, so it took them a long time to wake up. In this life, I must get to the bottom of this matter. Just then, my phone rang. Evelyn, how on earth do you take care of the children? You deliberately set such a big fire in your own house. Okay, now everyone is calling me the heroic mother, and scolding me as the absent father. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? I'm telling you, no matter what you do, you can't compare to Vivian. Yes, I'm going to be blunt with you today. You can't compare. And you even gave the children sleeping pills and forced them to cooperate with you in staging this play. I will definitely report you to the police. You just wait to go to jail. I was about to reply when I heard Vivian's crying on the other end of the phone. Henry, our children. After all, Evelyn hasn't given birth to or raised them. How could she understand the hardships of being pregnant for 10 months? Poor our children. Whoa. Okay. Don't worry. I will definitely avenge our children. After that, there was a violent sound of hanging up the phone on the other end. I lowered my head and smiled. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ethan typing quickly beside me. I knew that he was spreading what the doctor had just said everywhere. Realizing my gaze, Ethan quickly looked up and gave me a disdainful smile. Evelyn, you just wait to go to jail. Let me show you how I expose you to the media. As he spoke, he waved his phone in front of me and then left directly. Vaguely, I saw that the video playing on his phone was of me climbing the building during the fire. I quickly opened my phone and went to find the doctor to bandage my hands along the way. Heroic mother bravely rescues 2 children in the fire scene. The patron saint in the fire scene, the mother risked her life to rescue her 2 sons, and motherly love illuminates the darkness. Motherly love is like a torch. The mother in the fire scene sacrificed herself to save her children and rode a hymn to life. It turned out that the video of me climbing up to the 5th floor to save Lucas and Julian was posted online by the neighbors and directly shot to the top of the trending list. The comment section was full of praises for the greatness of motherly love. God, this little girl has so much energy in her body. I heard that they aren't even her biological children. The children's father seems to have gone on vacation. I'm from this residential community. It's really heartless. I swiped through several videos in a row, all of which were similar reports. Even some media magazines sent me private messages inviting me to be interviewed as the heroic mother. I smiled indifferently. When I swiped to the next one, it was actually a live broadcast titled "Expose the True Face of the Heroic Mother." The person in the live broadcast room was wearing a death mask and kept claiming that because of my jealousy, I used the 2 children to stage the big fire myself, and I didn't hesitate to give the children sleeping pills, completely ignoring the safety of the 2 children. The comment section was quite popular, and some people were even misled. I said, why did the fire break out all of a sudden? How could a woman like her rush into the fire scene so calmly? It turns out that she set the fire herself and controlled the intensity. Yes, I checked their residential community. There's a fire brigade just 5 kilometers away. How could the fire get so big that there wasn't even a little time to wait? Nowadays, people really have no bottom line in order to gain attention. Such a person doesn't deserve to be a mother, and the children aren't even her biological ones. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention. Just by looking at the voice and actions, I knew that it was Ethan deliberately trying to gain attention here. I directly blocked and reported him. At the same time, I reported him to his workplace for dereliction of duty, which caused great losses to people's lives and property. After having my hands bandaged, I walked out of the consulting room and unexpectedly bumped into the police who came to the hospital to investigate. Ms. Evelyn, hello. We hope you can come to the police station with us to have a detailed understanding of the situation at that time. I nodded and followed them into the police car heading to the police station. This is the surveillance video we retrieved from your house and the surrounding area. We found that around 12 o'clock today, After your husband went out, another woman entered your house. The police turned the video around and handed it to me. It's Vivian. The policeman looked puzzled. You know her? Yes, she's my husband's ex-wife and the biological mother of the 2 children. After saying that, I could clearly feel the policeman's expressions turn solemn. As you said, if this is really Ms. Vivian, then after she entered the room, she first put an unknown powder into a bottle and fed it to the children. Then she deliberately adjusted the heater to the maximum and directly draped the children's cotton padded clothes over it to bake. The policeman said to me while pointing to the corresponding position in the video. Our investigation results also show that the fire was caused by the cotton padded clothes catching fire spontaneously due to being baked by the heater. After hearing this, I almost couldn't stand up. A policewoman helped me sit down. I guessed that Vivian wanted to reconcile with Henry, but why would she harm her own flesh and blood? Was she setting a trap to lure me in? What if I didn't fall for it? Was she willing to bet the lives of her own children on the conscience of another woman? Was this too risky? Just as I was wondering, a big slap came towards me. My eyes went black and I was stunned. Evelyn, you have such a cruel heart. The children are still so young, yet you could actually do such a thing. You kept calling me desperately. You must have wanted to break up Vivian and me again, and by the way, kill our children, and then gain a good reputation for yourself. No way, you're a vicious woman and you deserve to go to hell. It was Henry. Presumably, after seeing the news online, he rushed back quickly. Vivian beside him also started to chime in. Henry, don't hurt your hand. You don't have to get angry for someone like her. Since they're not her own children, of course she doesn't know how to feel sorry for them. It's my fault too. She must be jealous of our relationship and is taking revenge on the children. As Vivian spoke, she leaned against Henry. Henry immediately hugged her, and his eyes looking at her were full of tenderness and pity. The policeman beside them couldn't stand it anymore. Mr. Henry, hello, we hope to talk to you two to understand the situation. We hope you can respectively tell us where you were and what you did before 12 o'clock this noon. Henry looked defiant and said, I specially asked for leave from the fire brigade this morning. Then, after putting the children to sleep, I went out. And you? The policeman was taking notes while looking at Vivian. Vivian, who was still sobbing and looking aggrieved, mumbled, I didn't do anything this morning. I just stayed at home waiting for Henry to pick me up for a vacation on the island. As soon as she finished speaking, I caught a trace of guilt in her eyes. You mean you were at home and didn't go out before 12 o'clock this morning? The policeman continued to ask. Yes. If that's the case, do you admit that the person in the video is you? As he spoke, the policeman brought up the surveillance video again. The moment she saw the video, Vivian's expression became flustered, and she immediately looked at Henry. Han Chui saw that the person in the video was Vivian, but he was still in doubt in his heart, or perhaps he didn't want to admit it. Vivian, tell me, is that person you? As long as you say it's not, I'll believe you. Henry desperately hoped to hear a negative answer, and the strength of his hand gripping Vivian unconsciously increased. Henry, I don't know how this video came about. Henry, you know that I'm even afraid of making a loud noise. How could I possibly harm my own children? It's you. You have such a cruel heart. You actually forged the video to frame me just to clear yourself of the blame. As she spoke, Vivian started crying again, and Henry, whose rationality had slightly returned, once again sided with Vivian without reservation. Darling, it's my fault. I misunderstood you. Evelyn, you've really gone too far, you're simply crazy. It's bad enough that you plotted to kill my children, and now you're framing Vivian too. I'm telling you, our relationship is over. Vivian has always been speaking up for you, and this is how you repay her kindness. 1 second, Henry was gently comforting Vivian, and the next second, he was being aggressive towards me. I knew he loved her, but I really couldn't have imagined that he would be so crazy that he didn't even care about basic decency. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Henry and Vivian. I turned to the policeman to confirm when the fingerprint comparison results would come out, and then prepared to leave the police station to go to the hospital to see the two children. As I was leaving the police station, I heard Vivian say that she was frightened and wanted to go home to have a bowl of red bean porridge and take a rest. Henry immediately helped her into the car and drove away. Their own children were still lying in the hospital with an uncertain outcome, yet the two of them were so heartless as to go home and have red bean porridge. Henry, you're really blind and can't see the true face of the woman beside you. When I arrived at the hospital and saw the children lying in the intensive care unit, my heart ached. The children were innocent, and they were still so young. The exhaustion of the whole day suddenly hit me at that moment. My eyelids grew heavier and heavier, and I leaned against the chair in the corridor and fell asleep directly. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by the sound of the ward door opening. I saw a nurse pushing a medical cart out with her head down. "Nurse, are you changing the medicine for these two children?" I stood up, wanting to know the current situation of the children. "Yeah." The nurse replied softly with her head down and was about to leave. Looking at her back, I always felt that she was familiar, as if I had seen her somewhere before. Suddenly, a ding sound pulled my thoughts back. The electrocardiogram monitor in the ward let out a piercing sound and instantly turned into a red line. The doctor rushed over quickly and entered the room to give emergency treatment immediately. I was instantly flustered. As a last resort, I called Henry again. Although I no longer loved him, I knew that if something happened to the children, they would want their biological father to be by their side. He still didn't answer the phone. As a last resort, I could only send a text message. "The children are in critical condition. Come to the hospital immediately." I stared intently at everything in the room, afraid that if I wasn't careful, the two children would leave this world. "Children, Mom is here." It wasn't Henry who came, but Vivian. Weren't they supposed to be together? "It's you again, you've harmed my children. Give me back my children's lives." As she spoke, Vivian erectly grabbed my clothes and started accusing me with tears streaming down her face. I tried to break free from her entanglement, but she held on tightly. The passers-by who were seeing a doctor nearby also gathered around. "Isn't this the heroic mother? I've seen her video." "Oh, I've seen that too. I heard that she risked her life to save the children even though they're not her biological ones." "Really? But I also heard that the woman staged it all herself." "Look, the woman crying loudly seems to be the so-called biological mother." The onlookers were talking one after another. Seeing this, Vivian started crying even louder. "Oh, we're both women. How can you be so heartless? I just wanted to see the children. If you wouldn't let me, that's fine. But then, while the adults were away from home, you deliberately set fire to our children. You went to great lengths to stage a show to save the children and clear yourself of the blame. Everyone, come and see. How could there be such a heartless and vicious person in the world?" Vivian started to put on a big show. She even knelt down in front of me. While pretending to beg for mercy, she blamed everything she had done on me. "How dare you call yourself a heroic mother? I think you're a heartless woman. What were you doing sneaking around at the ward door just now? Do you think the children being in a coma isn't enough and you still want to kill them? Heaven, I'm begging you. If you want to take revenge, take it out on me. Don't hurt my children." As she spoke, Vivian kept cowering on the ground, making a thumping sound. The people around all pointed at me. "Oh, she's so heartless." "Yeah, how often do stepmothers go to save other people's children? It's already good if they don't harm them. I told you so." As soon as the news came out, I sneered. "It's just another show." I didn't want to cooperate with her act and was going to call the security guard. But then I saw Henry rushing over in a hurry. "Vivian, get up quickly. Such a vicious woman isn't worth our kneeling." "Don't worry, the police will definitely give us justice." Henry immediately helped Vivian up and glared at me fiercely. "When I woke up and saw that you weren't by my side, I knew you must be worried about the children and came to the hospital." "Heh. You're just too kind. You also have to take care of your own body." Henry gently tidied up Vivian's clothes and softly brushed away the stray hairs on her forehead. All of this made me seem even more like the heinous, heartless and vicious woman. But what about our children? Evelyn was the only one at the ward door. Who knows what she fed our children again? Otherwise, why would the children's condition suddenly become critical? As she spoke, Vivian started crying again. Henry quickly comforted her, and his gaze towards me became even more fierce. Evelyn, if anything happens to the children today, I'm putting it here, you'd have to be buried with our children. I couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. It turned out that when people are extremely speechless, they really do laugh. Do you mean you'll avenge your children with your own hands? Of course. As he spoke, Henry took a big step forward. Anyone? Definitely, they're my own children. After I finished speaking, I deliberately glanced at Vivian. She bit her lips tightly, and it was obvious that she felt uneasy. That's good. Then let's get a divorce. I took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago, thinking about when I could get it signed. Anyway, you already think I'm a murderer. I won't. Henry instantly snatched the divorce agreement from my hand and tore it to shreds. If I kill you without getting a divorce, it's at most domestic violence. If we get a divorce, it won't be that simple. I'm not stupid. Henry's rascal ity once again broke my bottom line. In my previous life, if he killed me, it was because I stopped his date with Vivian and couldn't protect the person he loved. At this moment, I finally realized that he was a rotten person to the core. Oh, they really are a couple. Both of them had bad intentions. But this kind of slutty woman deserves a beating. I don't think there's anything wrong with the man. Anyway, it's the children who are unlucky. The onlookers chattered on. The whole scene was noisy, and suddenly a voice put an end to it all. Sorry, please accept my condolences. The emergency doctor walked out of the intensive care unit, said this sentence, and then left. Upon hearing this, Vivian burst into tears instantly. My children, you've had such a tough life. You bitch, give me back my children. As she spoke, she tried to grab my clothes again. I instinctively dodged backward. My head was still in a daze. Clearly, I had held the two children at noon, and I could feel the warmth from their soft bodies. Now, they had suddenly left and gone to another world. I prepared to enter the room to take one last look at the children, but Henry gave me a hard shove and threw me onto the chair. Evelyn, you bitch, I'll kill you. As he spoke, he swung a punch at me. I couldn't dodge in time, so I quickly closed my eyes. However, the punch didn't land on my face as I had imagined. I opened my eyes. I realized that the police who had arrived in time had restrained Henry, who was about to use violence. Mr. Henry, please calm down. If you can't control your emotions like this, we will arrest you for endangering public safety. After the police said this to Henry, they then showed the arrest warrant to Vivian, who was still crying. Miss Vivian, please come with us. We suspect you of the crime of intentional homicide and arson. Before the words were even finished, Henry hurriedly interrupted the police. You've got it wrong. It's her, it's Evelyn, not Vivian. I'm asking, is this how you public servants, who are paid with people's tax money, do things? Henry immediately defended the woman beside him. Seeing this situation, the police took out a set of nurses' uniform. We just found this in the trash can around the corner downstairs. According to the doctor's testimony, the two children had already been out of danger 2 hours ago. The sudden critical condition just now was caused by someone deliberately injecting a large amount of insulin. We urgently retrieved the hospital surveillance and also found that after Vivian, wearing this nurse's uniform, sneaked into the intensive care unit to commit the crime in order to avoid attracting attention, she threw away the clothes and the syringe and rushed to the scene immediately to try to create an alibi. At the same time, the fingerprint extraction results from the fire scene have come out, showing that they are exactly those of Ms. Vivian. After hearing what the police said, Henry was like a deflated balloon and stood there stunned. The police prepared to take Vivian away, but she resisted in every possible way. Henry, save me. They're framing me. Henry, save me. Just then, a slap sound made everyone present stop. Henry slapped Vivian hard. Why? They're your own children. Henry, who had gone crazy, forcefully restrained Vivian. His eyes were completely red with anger. Realizing that the situation was a foregone conclusion, Vivian started laughing maniacally. You're all fools, you're all fools. Vivian pointed at Henry with her finger and then looked at me. So what if they're my children? I abandoned them once, and I can do it a second time. If it wasn't for that accident back then, how could I have given birth to them? They shouldn't have been born in this world in the first place. But they were still a bit useful, that is, their lives were worth some money. Henry, who was extremely angry, kicked Vivian to the ground. He picked up the chair beside him and threw it at Vivian. Why? In the previous life, you lied to me, but I didn't blame you. In this life, you still lied to me and even used our children as bargaining chips. Have you ever really cared about me in your heart? Doesn't your heart hurt? The chair landed heavily on Vivian, and the people around were so scared that they scattered several meters away. The police and the hospital security guards quickly rushed over to restrain the crazy Henry. Vivian was taken away for medical treatment and then imprisoned. After that day, I never saw Henry again. Because of the extremely bad social impact of the Vivian incident, she was sentenced to death and executed immediately. I was busy preparing the funeral for the two poor children. In the previous life, they were luckily saved by their father. In this life, they still couldn't escape the clutches of their biological mother. On the day of the funeral, I stood in front of the tomb holding the dolls that the children loved the most, talking to them and praying that they would meet a pair of loving parents in their next life. Evelyn, you must hate me, right? It was Henry. He still showed up at his own children's funeral. I turned around and a man with a scruffy beard and loose clothes stood in front of me. In just a few days, he seemed to have aged more than 10 years. His eyes were full of vicissitudes and weariness. In the previous life, I killed you. In this life, I almost sent you to prison. You risked your life to save my children, but I guarded against you like a thief. Actually, after you died in the previous life, I found out that Vivian was still alive. She was the same as before and met a richer man. I just had illusions when I met her again in this life. I thought that if I went to the appointment, maybe she wouldn't meet other men, and maybe she could live a stable life with me. Unexpectedly, she bought a huge insurance policy for our children in the name of their biological mother. In the previous life, when she met a wealthy man, she gave up this idea. In this life, she actually harmed her own children several times for the sake of money. Evelyn, hate me. You should hate me. Henry slowly told me all this. I looked at him, and the experiences of the two lives kept flashing before my eyes. I shook my head. I hated you before but not anymore. Upon hearing this, there was both confusion and relief in Henry's eyes. I'm never as open and aboveboard as you. Can we still be together? I turned to him and silently handed him a piece of paper. Henry took it, smiled, and signed it neatly. This is the only thing I can do for you now. I took the divorce agreement and turned to leave. I hadn't walked a few steps when I heard the man sobbing. It was the stuffed doll I left behind. On the day Lucas had a high fever, Henry stayed at Vivian's house and refused to come home. As a last resort, I coaxed the children and told them that their father had turned into a little bear to coax them to sleep, and they could talk to the bear if they had something to say. Lucas and Julian blinked their eyes and said in a babyish voice, "Daddy, don't worry about Lucas. Lucas is very good and drank all the medicine Mommy gave. Daddy, if it's too stuffy for you inside the little bear, you can come out. Lucas isn't afraid, Daddy, we miss you." What was Henry crying for? Was it regret, guilt, or the desire for a second chance? It had nothing to do with me anymore. Later, I had a new place to live, a new job, and a new life. One day, I received a call from the police. "Ms. Evelyn, hello. There's a gentleman who got drunk and collapsed in the cemetery overnight and was frozen to death. We found out that you are his guardian." I replied slowly. "I used to be, but not anymore. You can handle it according to the normal procedure. Okay, then we won't bother you. After hanging up the phone, I looked up at the sky and prayed to the gods to send kindness to those who truly needed it.